With a swing, the golf ball takes off. Eric looked at the white trail in the distance and gradually lost his target. Steven Spielberg looked at him with a smile. Eric, it looks like your golf level needs to be improved. Eric shrugged. Of course, he didn't know how to play golf, although he was the highest assistant director in his previous life, but the assistant director was a fart. It has not yet reached the point where someone invites him to play golf. Usually he is invited to dinner and singke, plus a bar sauna one-stop. Golf was still a little high-end for him at that time. Finally, in the midst of everyone's amazement, Eric shot 183 to finally push the damn ball into the hole. I have to say, it's much harder to get into this hole than it is to be in bed. Eric's complaint immediately caused everyone to laugh. Dad handed over a bottle of water. Son, maybe you should come to the court more, play more of this kind of ball, and play less of that kind of ball. Your mother will be much more relieved. Crowd laughed again. Thankfully, this is in America. If this passage is circulated in Huaxia, several of them will be sprayed out by netizens, and all kinds of inferior men and lewd men will be marked. By the way, Eric, Ling, and Nicole Kidman, is it true? Asked Jeffrey Katzenberg curiously. What? You believe this thing too? Jeffrey, it's a slander, reporting garbage scandals. These gossip newspapers are the most eye-catching. Eye-catching is equal to sales. So, La Vie en Rose is really a thing? What kind of movie is it? Literary or commercial? Spielberg asked. Literary films, very standard literary films. So MGM and Nicole Kidman plan to use this movie to win another award? Yes, that's understandable. When is it planned? This year or next year? Eric shook his head slightly. I'm not sure for the time being. The script is still in the stage of revision and refinement. If the shooting goes well, it would be good to catch up with the Christmas file. Spielberg laughed. I suggest putting it in the Christmas stall. Why? Said Cooper, father and son, looking at the little old man with glasses. Because Steven is working on Happiness Terminal, which is scheduled for June next year. If La Vie en Rose is also placed next year, I'm afraid we will be competitors in the Oscars. David Geffen explained. Eric suddenly realized, is it right for Tom Hanks to star? Then I have to avoid your old partner. He is the first person to win an Oscar for The Philadelphia Story and Forrest Gump, and I am afraid that there will be no actor like him in the future. But you can fight for Nicole Kidman, like making her a queen of the village. Steven, you just want me to put the movie on this year, right? Okay, then I'll do my best. By the way, I remember your birthday is in December. Spielberg nodded. December 18th, what's wrong? Then I decided La Vie en Rose is scheduled for December 18th, which is my birthday gift to you. No problem. If La Vie en Rose is really released on December 18th, I'll promote it for free and charter it. Count me in. And me. Wait, it doesn't seem right. I feel like you've fallen for it. Even if there is no La Vie en Rose, MGM will have other movies next year. Ha! In the lounge, several people were sitting or lying, and 5 masters were massaging them vigorously. Of course, these are not other people's golf course projects. They are experts that Eric specially invited from Chinatown, and the half-haired old man who is pressing his father is almost 60 years old. The others were all his apprentices. The youngest was a Chinese woman in her 20s, slightly chubby, and she should be good if she lost weight. Oh! OMG! Oh! The lounge was filled with the howls of several old men. Spielberg's left arm was bent around his neck for half a week, and the world's #1 box office director was wailing in pain. Relax, relax. Don't resist too hard. Your muscles are too stiff, and when you finish pressing, you will soon feel comfortable. Geffen and Katzenberg are also a hanging example. What Hollywood bigwigs, what emperors in the singing circle, they have collapsed under the offensive of massage and footsals. Especially after living for decades, it is the first time to have this experience, and the sour feeling is enough to make them want to die. At this moment, my father was lying on the recliner panting, his face was flushed, and he looked constipated. Doctor, I thought you were the biggest in grade and should have the least strength. It seems that I was wrong. David Geffen gently rubbed his chest. Why? Why do we have to give money when we are suffering? That's my question, too. Jeffrey Katzenberg struggled to endure. Eric also frowned. David, isn't this just like those busy toiling people? In an instant, the four old men looked at him together and felt that what he said made too much sense. David Geffen said with some emotion, Eric, although some people are afraid to say it to their faces, I know that they call me a vampire behind their backs, but after listening to your speech, I suddenly realized that vampire may be a compliment. Thank you, Master. Storm my kidney reflex zone. An hour later, the massage was finally over, and the five of them collapsed on the recliner together. How do you feel? Are you still satisfied with the special service I arranged? Spielberg twisted his neck. It's a strange experience. I felt like my neck was going to break, but now it's unexpectedly comfortable. That's right. It's as if the fatigue of a long time has been released and the acid in the body has been expelled. I feel the same way, especially on the soles of my feet. The original soreness is gone, and now I feel light all over my body. It's like years when it's light. You have a sandbag tied to your leg for a long time, and that feeling when you suddenly take off the sandbag. Dad smiled with satisfaction. Eric, you should have recommended it to me earlier. I will have to do this massage once a week in the future. Compared to the master just now, those chicks who used to massage me are not even fart. Xiali, the question is, are those chicks just giving you a massage? Doesn't it come with other services? Ha 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 ha, Jeffrey, how far has Frozen go? Asked Eric. Elsa and Anna's modeling is almost complete, including their clothes, shoes, and a variety of different looks. And the other characters' looks are not as detailed as the two of them in the script, and the design is still being refined. And the scenes of the Kingdom of Arendelle, etc. In short, this is a very complex process, more complex and exquisite than Shrek. According to my plan, it will take at least 4 months to complete, which is the most conservative estimate. Actually, it's based on the fact that you've already provided a fairly complete composition of the characters, otherwise it would have taken 8 months or more based on experience. Steven, do you remember how many scraps of Shrek were? Spielberg recalled, I don't remember exactly, but at least half a room is the size, and animated films are far more time-consuming and laborious than live-action films. As a practitioner, Eric also understands how difficult it is to make a high-quality animated feature film, so he gave Frozen a psychological cycle of 2 years. It's best to catch up with next year's summer file, and if you can't catch up, the Christmas file is also very good, but you can't even catch up with the Christmas file, so you can only put it in the summer file of 2005. As for other schedules, that would only waste the box office potential of Frozen. Knowing the progress of Frozen, Eric decided to tell his true purpose. David, in addition to movies, I remember that DreamWorks also has a music department, right? David Geffen looked at him and nodded slightly. That's right. I'm mainly in charge of the music section, and I'm the best at this field. Then I want to post a single. Is that okay? David Geffen was a little surprised. Eric, you can still sing? It's not me. It's a favor for a friend. No problem. I also like to promote new talents, as long as the songs are good enough. I can help them become A-list singers. It's not a newcomer. It's Michael Jackson. He's not doing well lately. Sony won't send him a single. I'm going to help him. Hearing that the singer turned out to be my button, David Geffen suddenly stopped talking, and his face turned cold. Michael Jackson. It turned out to be him. I'm afraid there is something wrong with that. Why? Have you ever had a holiday with each other? But David Geffen, like Mueller, was silent. Eric, if it's anyone else, it's okay if you say a word, but Jackson, I can't get along with him, forget it. Eric looked at Spielberg and Katzenberg. both of whom had puzzled and melon-eating expressions and didn't seem to know what was going on. I'm afraid only two people, my Buckle and David Geffen, know what happened. The scene was a little cold. Spielberg smiled and said, "Things can be discussed later. Today is to relax, and it is not too late to talk about work later." However, who will take this kind of rhetoric seriously? It cannot be discussed today, let alone in the future. Eric got up from the recliner. "David, how about coming out and talking?" David Geffen frowned and could tell that he didn't want to go, but he still followed. In the break room, Katzenberg looked at his father. "Charlie, what's wrong with Eric? Is he familiar with Michael Jackson?" Dad shook his head. "I don't know. MGM's division of labor is very clear. Eric is in charge of production. He usually thinks and does, and he doesn't need to report to me. Eric can talk to David whatever he wants, and we'll leave it alone, and I'm sure they'll get a satisfactory result." Charlie Cooper didn't want to say it, and Katzenberg and Spielberg didn't ask any more questions, and the two of them and David Geffen were only working together. Since it's all about partners, don't get involved. 10 minutes later, the two returned to the lounge. Their faces were as usual, as if they had said everything, but they didn't seem to say anything. Others look at their noses, mouths, and mouths, as if this has never happened. In the evening, Cooper and his son wave goodbye to the DreamWorks triumvirate and leave. Eric and David Geffen were still talking and laughing, and no one could see anything. In the car, Eric dialed MJ's phone. "Maiku, I've already talked to DreamWorks, and when you're ready, you'll be able to release a single." "Really?" said Michael's voice, visibly surprised. But David Geffen, "Don't worry, I've got him, but this is the only chance. DreamWorks will only release the single Rolling in the Deep for you, and there will be no follow-up cooperation, but I believe in your strength." OMG. What the hell is going on? How the hell did you convince David Geffen? He's such a proud man. Everyone has a weakness, and MGM has the weakness of DreamWorks in his hands. I don't know what exactly is going on between you, but even if David Geffen doesn't want to, I'm going to make him bow his head. Eric, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know what to say. Then record the song. As long as Rolling in the Deep is successful, there will be countless people who will jump out and rush to release your song. Even Sony will be no exception. Prove it to them. Button. Hanging up the phone, Dad looked at himself. "Eric, are you so optimistic about Michael Jackson? He's a big nuisance right now, and everyone wants to stay away from him." "Everyone? I don't think so, but there are people besides me who speak for him." "Dad, I know you're very confused, so let me tell you a story. It's a story I learned in a few days in Huaxia. The story is relatively old, for more than 2,000 years. Dad frowned. The last time the Forbidden City was hundreds of years ago, and this story was 2,000 years ago. This country is really ancient and scary. That's right, ancient and wise, and the story I'm going to tell is also the story of a wise merchant, and it's called Odd Goods. A few minutes later, Eric finished telling Lu Buwei's story, and his father was thoughtful. Invest in the most difficult time for the other party, and then get dozens or hundreds of times the profit. You want to express this meaning. Do I understand correctly? Eric nodded. That's it, for us. It doesn't take much effort to help Michael Jackson, but we can get a return that far exceeds the investment, why not? Looking at the world, MJ is still firmly in the first echelon, and all he needs is a song that will turn him around. Dad sighed. Okay, Eric, you're always very planned. What do you need my help with? Also, Suyu, do you know a reliable private detective? On May 6th, outside of Los Angeles, several European-style villas stood there. At this moment, outside the building at the very edge, several large cars with Lion's Head logos are parked there, and Neil Blomkamp is directing the crew to load and unload the filming equipment. Today is the day of the start of Adele's life, which lasted several months, and the preparation work is finally complete. In fact, The conditions for booting up have long been met, and Eric gave an order, and it was able to be turned on more than half a month ago. However, since Eric plans to be a director, one of the important prerequisites for starting filming is to find a reliable assistant director who must have solid basic skills and at the same time be obedient and have strong execution. Otherwise, it will be inconvenient for him to be the shopkeeper. A week ago, the candidate was finally found, and MGM had found Andrea Arnold, a British female director. However, although she is a British female director, she actually studied directing knowledge in the United States, and she became a monk halfway through, jumping from host to director. Has been in the industry for more than 10 years, and only began to direct his first short film, Milk, in 1998, and completed his second short film, Dog, more than a year ago. After Eric's interview, Andrea Arnold gave him a very solid feeling, with a relatively mediocre personality, no problem with basic skills, and an excellent executor. It is commendable that he also has his own understanding of art, but he is not the kind of character who is eager to express himself. Being able to suppress her desire to express herself was better than Patty Jenkins, so the position of assistant director eventually fell to her. At this time, she was communicating with the villa owner's family not far away, telling them the necessary precautions, the most important of which was confidentiality. Fortunately, the filming conditions this time are different from Transformers, not in the urban area. The crew is only facing a few households, and the household has signed a confidentiality agreement, and there will be no problems if the surrounding families send people to keep an eye on it. Eric, Elizabeth, let us tell you how much you recommended her to audition for a role in A Quiet Place. Sister Olsen came up and said, "It's nothing, I think it's right for her, so I chose her, and the audition is just a process." By the way, has little Elizabeth ever registered with the union? She registered as an actress when she was 7 years old, but unfortunately she could only play a small supporting role, and she was still on the small screen, and A Quiet Place was her first big screen role. "I've already registered, but it's a pity. It seems that I have to pay a sum of money, and I think I can squeeze child labor." Eric pretended to be a pity joke. Mary, who has a lively personality, pushed him. "You guy, why are you always thinking about these strange things in your head?" Actually, I don't know that little Elizabeth once wanted to participate in Very Little Spy very much, but she was rejected, and the casting director said something she didn't like, which gave her a big blow anyway, and Mary and I couldn't help her much on the big screen. So, now I'm not only her idol, but also add another layer of benefactor's aura? Mary nodded. "That's right. In fact, after receiving the notice from the crew a few days ago, our family was very happy, and Ashley and I also discussed it with my parents for a long time." "What to discuss? How to repay me?" "Yes, the result of our discussion is to let little Elizabeth recognize you as a godfather." Poof. Eric squirted a mouthful of water onto the monitor screen. Machine, wipe. Then I saw Mary's playful expression, and I knew that I was being smashed and played by this little. What kind of international joke? I am 22 years old, Elizabeth is 14 years old. The difference is less than 1 round, and it is almost the same to recognize my father as a godfather. Get out, go to that corner and squat for me to memorize the lines." Eric waved his hand to chase away the flies, but was grabbed by Mary, and she pressed her whole body up, leaning into Eric's ear and whispering, "Isn't the godfather bad?" Eric was excited, but before he could react, Mary was pulled away by Ashley. "Mary, how can you say such a thing? It's too much." Ashley glared at her sister complainingly. "What's wrong?" "I'm just teasing him. You don't see his expression change. Everyone is stupid. I think you want to flirt with him." "Eric? No, he's not mine. You know I like muscular hunks. He doesn't even have obvious biceps." At this time, Eric was still sitting in front of the surveillance screen and reminiscing about Mary's words. Damn. The European and American circles are really exciting. Hey, what are you talking about? I seem to hear sensitive words. Behind it, Judy quietly appears behind Eric like a shark that smells blood, and she is the producer of the show. When Eric is not there, she is responsible for staring at the set. Nothing. No, I think I heard DDY. Judy bent down and whispered in Eric's ear, and she deliberately accentuated the last word. Eric was excited again, pointed to the villa and said, Go inside and set up the background for me." "Oh, is Daddy angry?" said Judy. Eric glared at her. "Don't speak in that tone." "Ah, Fu, why are all women like this? Who does Daddy wanna fuck? Stop, or you can sit in this position and I'll go." Giggles. Judy left with a strange smile. Other girls laughed like this and laughed cheerfully, but there was a strange feeling in her. "Neil, report the situation," Eric said into the headset. "The interior scene has been set up." "Sharon, report the situation. The makeup team has finished applying makeup." "Kelfu, what about your camera?" "Director, the equipment has been installed and commissioned, and filming is ready to start." "Luna, tell me about the lights." "The lights are already in place, Director." "Chavez, is the recording ready?" "Yes, Director." Andrea walked over and nodded. "I've checked all the details, no problem." Eric stood up, and the chamber drama didn't need a loudspeaker. The 45th scene of Adele's life. Action. The scene reporter hit the board, and the first shot of the movie officially started. This scene is not complicated. That is, Emma, one of the heroines played by Mary, invites Adele, another heroine played by Ashley, to her home as a guest. Since Emma's family is harmonious and her parents are supportive of their daughter's sexuality, they welcome Adele and the family has a happy meal. The difficulty of the play is not much. The key is that Adele has to show a trace of envy and worry while being happy, and there are fewer emotional ups and downs. Eric specially picked this scene. The purpose is to check whether the Olsen sisters are well prepared. If NG5 can be passed, the filming schedule of the movie is estimated to be compressed to less than a month and a half. At this time, Mary's hair has been cut short and dyed indigo, and after the operation of the makeup artist, the hairstyle will make her chin more pointed so that it looks more aggressive. Ashley is an introverted character. Most of the time, she is required to wear no makeup when filming this scene, and under the modification of the makeup artist, she also deliberately shows her forehead so that she looks no different from an ordinary passerby girl, just like everyone's neighbor in life. The Olsen sisters in the play, as well as the ones who usually appear in the interview, have already judged the two of them. Mary, in particular, can hardly find a shadow of the past if you don't look closely. The lighting is adjusted to warm tones. Click. The door opened, and Mary walked in with Ashley. As the camera approached, the two actors who played the parents immediately stood up, with a smile on their faces that was warm but not warm. These are two very experienced old actors, but their appearance conditions are not outstanding, and they have no good luck, but they don't want to leave the industry, and such actors generally end up like this. Welcome, Adele." Mary turned to look at Ashley and made an eyebrow-sucking expression, meaning you see I'm right. My parents are very friendly. Ashley had a somewhat flattered expression, and the corners of her mouth were somewhat unnaturally curled, showing inner tension. Very well, one more, Ashley. This time the expression is a little more restrained. Ashley made an okay gesture. Adele's life, scene 45, Article 2, action. This time, the curvature on the corners of Ashley's mouth disappeared, and the muscles of her cheeks twitched slightly. Very good, Ashley, this time with the blinking action. It is the kind of slightly blinking that is a little uncomfortable in my heart, and it is still subtle. Okay, Director. After Ashley did it for the third time, Andrea and Eric looked at the monitor screen together. Andrea suggested, or you can add some movement to Ashley's feet. People will subconsciously move when they are nervous. Eric nodded. Good advice, Ashley, one more. A not complicated shot was shot 5 times, and each time Ashley could give subtle differences, which seemed to express nervousness. But in the director's eyes, the feeling presented was different, and the specific final use still needs to be considered. Good job, Ashley. It looks like you've prepared well for this play. Eric gave encouragement at the right time. He is not Cameron, Stephen Chow, not the character of a tyrant on the set. He prefers an encouraging way of stimulation. Because you are the director, I dare not slack off, Ashley said with a smile. Haha, look what's going on. Why do I feel like everyone is complimenting me when I sit in this chair? Wait, you don't worry that my level is too bad, so you can only work yourself. Crew suddenly burst into a chuckle. Mary spread her hands. Director, if you laugh any longer, my feelings will be lost. Okay, everybody, stop. Let's continue. The next shot is more exciting. It is the 4 of them chatting while drinking, and the ridicule of her parents makes Emma excited and happy, and she directly hugged Adele and kissed her. The Life of Adele Scene 46 Action. The lights changed from warm tones to more lively yellow and blue. Emma's father took a sip of white wine and described his daughter's first time she became aware of her sexuality. You know Adele, she was terrified and confused, and I still remember that look clearly. Later she cut off her long hair and dyed it a lot, which is what you see now. Ashley's eyes revealed envy. This kind of family atmosphere. Adele is so eager that she still doesn't dare to confess her sexuality to her parents. Ashley smiled and lowered her head shyly.
Ka.
Eric stood up and pointed at Ashley. Adele is a very sensitive person, and now she envies Emma's family atmosphere, but it seems to be very harmonious. But she is not yet able to adapt to the sensitivity. Ashley, recall the storyboard I drew. In the face of Emma's raid, Adele shouldn't be shy. Her subconscious reaction should be a little overwhelmed. Imagine your boyfriend's parents right next to you and it's your first time meeting, how you should react. Ashley nodded. Okay, director, I get it. Adele's Life Scene 46 Action. Ashley leaned back slightly. Her pupils dilated. Her face changed from a smile just now to a stiff one, and the feeling of being overwhelmed came out instantly. Okay, this is over. Many male staff around suddenly showed a look of disappointment. They should take a few more. They are not afraid of being tired. Especially Judy. That batch of faces collapsed in an instant. Looking at the things raised by this group of bitches, Eric naturally understood what the LSPs were thinking, and there were a few men who didn't like this kind of tune. In fact, from the bottom of his heart, is it really for artistic pursuit that Eric wants to direct this film? That's right, absolutely. But after a few seconds, his mind began to fly. Well, have the 2 of them practiced in private? Otherwise, why are they so skilled in kissing? They must have practiced many times. Damn, what was I thinking? Art. Daddy. Get out of my head. After a busy day, the filming of the dinner scene was over, and the crew called it a day. EB 11:17, looking at the missed call on his phone, Eric dialed back. Boss, the viewership of the 4th episode of The Walking Dead is out, with 10.5 million subscribers. Is it getting lower? Why do I feel like I'm getting less? Yes, the last episode was 11.7 million, mainly because there were fewer big scenes in this episode. Okay, I see. It's a good result too. It's normal for ratings to fluctuate. After all, it's impossible to have exciting scenes in every episode, and the funds can't afford to burn. As long as it can be maintained at more than 10 million, it is already very successful. Time flashed to Thursday, and everything was going on in an orderly manner. The only thing that made Eric a little unhappy was that there were still Black fans of MJ who came to MGM's official website to leave messages and abuse. And recently, many classic movies produced by MGM have been maliciously swiped with bad reviews, such as Gone with the Wind, Ben-Hur, Cat and Mouse, etc. Some local television stations also received boycott letters when these films were broadcast. It's a pity that these guys who don't learn and don't know how to figure out the situation, because most of the movies that have been boycotted have long since disappeared from MGM and now belong to Warner, which is also laughable. Casting for the low-budget thriller Hold Your Breath has been completed, and the British trio all went to auditioning for roles as two men of the three thieves. These two roles actually have no characteristics, and most young actors can be competent. There is no need to cast according to the original movie. If you don't feel that it is in line with the character design, then change the character design directly. This kind of character is not like Hannibal is a high IQ criminal, nor is it like a tough robot like T-800. It is a character that will not give the audience any psychological hints, and it is not irreplaceable. In the end, Tom Hardy, who is a bit of a rascal and a little ruffian, auditions for Alex, the licking dog among the three thieves. Michael Fassbender auditioned for a successful audition, and the somewhat reckless miner was the first to hang up. The female thief Logie was taken down by Evangeline Lilly, and now she is not as famous as in later generations, and she is still more than 10 years away from starring in the Marvel heroine The Wasp, and she is currently just a small role in the industry. I only started to contact the small screen last year, and the big screen is just a trick, but I participated in a very famous movie, Freddy vs. Jason, playing a little Karami who was killed by Jason. Being able to win the heroine of Hold Your Breath is enough for her to be excited for a long time. All three have signed contracts with MGM for 4 films. Signing a contract is equivalent to being bound to MGM, and for the 3 of them who are still small roles, it is actually a good thing to have filming. And the most important character in Hold Your Breath, and the blind veteran who is also the real male protagonist, was taken down by Duff Runger. It's a bit inaccurate to say that it won, but in fact, the crew sent the script and audition invitation to Longer, and the veteran tough guy finally accepted the role. His salary is also the highest in the whole show at $1.8 million, while F.A. Shark and Mr. Tang are both $70,000, and Evangeline Lilly is even less, only $20,000. Some people may think that it is too cheap for an old action superstar like Longer to take on such a low-budget horror film. This belongs to not seeing the market situation clearly. The era of tough guy action movies like Longer is over, and the 80s and 90s of the last century are the golden period. The current Longer is 46 years old, and the films he receives can't even be on the big screen, either TV movies or DVDs. The group of tough guys back then can still be the protagonists and act in blockbusters only a few people such as Bruce Willis and Stallone. My lord, times have changed. As for the director of the movie, there were many candidates relatively early, and there were more than 10 people who signed up, all of whom belonged to rookie directors. The producer also sent invitations to several famous directors who are good at thrillers, but when they saw the amount of investment, they didn't reply. Even the production cost of $10 million is not enough, and this money can't make any oil residue. As for dividends, it is also necessary for someone to believe that this movie will become the next Blair the Witch and Chainsaw. It's not worth it compared to the cost of time. The final confirmed director is Tim Miller, who just released his first short film last year. Although he has not grown up yet, he will become the director and producer of excellent work such as Deadpool and Love, Death in the future. MGM Studio, the crew of Adele's Life, is going to shoot the footage of Emma and Adele's first encounter on the street. The glimpse of the two is known as one of the classic shots in the Lala world, which is enough to make them famous in film history. This shot is very important, but it is not too long, and it is too wasteful to close the road to shoot live, so I simply rented a scene from Universal Studios. Although MGM has a studio, it does not have a filming base of the scale of the studio. Andrea clapped her hands and walked around, asking about the preparation of the groups, and after a few days of running in, she had settled into Eric's rhythm. There was a half-day scene that Eric threw directly to her to direct, and the other party answered the phone and left after explaining a few words. It's the first time Andrea has seen such a chief director, and it can be said that he has opened his eyes. And she was also directing a director's microphone for the first time in a feature-length film, which made her nervous and excited. After filming the script in a single shot, Eric was thankfully positive and praised some of the details she added by her initiative. Andrea Arnold, who is in her early 40s, breathed a sigh of relief. Her age is obviously twice that of Eric, but the difference in status and experience in the entertainment industry still make this woman with no background always be cautious. After that successful shooting, she finally relaxed, and her work in the crew became more handy. "James, what have you been doing lately? I didn't hear from you," Eric asked. James McAvoy pointed to the east. "Director, I went back to the UK after the scene in Transformers was finished, and director Patty was in charge of filming at that time, and you weren't there, so I didn't bother you. When I went back, we rehearsed a play, but unfortunately we did 3 performances in the small theater, but no one watched it," Jean-Aimé said and lowered her head a little ashamedly. "It doesn't matter. Drama is the best way to hone your acting skills, and the result may not be good, but at least this step is right," Eric said comfortingly. "Yes, I think the same way, director. Has MGM had a new play lately? Is there a role that suits me? Actually, I don't have to appear in movies. TV series can also be. The Walking Dead is very popular. I watched it without missing an episode." McAvoy looked at Eric with some hope. He had already heard Tom Hardy say that the other party and Fassbender had signed a contract with MGM, at least for the time being, so that they would not worry about filming and have exposure. It's a pity that he didn't succeed in the audition, and when the cameo in Adele's life ends, he can only go back to the UK. Maybe after the release of Transformers at the end of the year, there will be a crew looking for him to film, but what about the half a year in between? Jean-Aimé understands that she may only have 2 or 3 days. Can she have more opportunities? All of them on this handsome young man in front of him. Eric thought about it, but didn't think of a character suitable for McAvoy. The actor of Happy Death Day is okay, but he has been won by Benjamin McKenzie and the contract has been signed. "I'm sorry, James, but I can't think of a suitable role for you right now." McAvoy was a little disappointed. "There are no directors. This is Hollywood. There are so many crews working every day. I can always find a suitable one. Even if I don't, I can go back to the UK to act." Eric patted him on the shoulder. "If there's a suitable role, I'll keep it for you." "Thank you, director." Neil Blomkamp walked over. "Director, it's time to get started." James McAvoy left consciously, returning to his little stool. The Life of Adele, Scene 9, Action. The originally static square suddenly moved. Cars began to drive by, and the group performers really talked and walked like passers-by. At this time, Adele was at the stage where she had just awakened to her sexual orientation, but she was tricked by a female friend who played with her feelings. Her heart was extremely empty, and her expression was in a trance when she walked on the road. The cameraman's camera follows Ashley, who walks out of the turnstile and walks quickly into the distance with a common shoulder bag on her back. In the close-up, the footsteps are given first, and the hurried pace shows Adele's impatience and hurry at this time. Then the camera pans to her face, and she begins to look left and right, looking impatient. "Ashley, your eyes are wrong, distracting the focus. What I need is a confused and helpless look. Yours are too sharp." Ashley makes an okay gesture and the camera retakes. In the monitoring screen, Ashley's eyes this time became a lot more sloppy, as if she had just woken up, and she felt confused. "It's too much. You're just confused. Not halfway through your sleep and woken up. Your current state looks too stupid, and you frown slightly. I need your eyebrow area to show a hint of sadness." Remade. Again, Ashley's expression changed again, but the force was too strong, and she looked too worried.
Ka.
"This one is okay, but try to restrain your expression a little more. And how do you do the makeup? The hair is too smooth. Let me make it a little scattered. Mary, your hairstyle needs to be cleaned up a little more. I need it to be more neat. Scattered and neat. This is the contrast of your living conditions, understand? The makeup team hurriedly ran over to the four of them, and for a while they were tinkering with their hairstyles, and after a few minutes the detail was perfected. Art films are so strenuous, and commercial films are completely different things, and if it was Transformers, Eric would not care about such small problems. In the end, in the constant jamming and repetition, a walking shot of Ashley was shot 19 times before Eric finally let her pass. Okay, take a 5-minute break. In an instant, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Ashley rubbed her face. This guy seems to be very serious today. My facial muscles are about to cramp. Is it that you are acting too badly? We only found a professional teacher to tutor these things not long ago. Mary grinned and complained. Ashley glared at her sister. Really? Then I'll see how you do next. At this time, Judy came out of nowhere. Ashley, are your facial muscles a little sore? Let me help you relax. I have studied professional care massage. Ashley hurriedly took a step back. No, I'll do it myself. She had learned about Judy's hobbies from the staff, and she finally understood why the other party always looked at her with strange eyes. It's okay, let me help you, Judy said as she pressed her cheek against each other's cheeks, rubbing her hands gently. I'm right, I'm a professional. I used to work in a gym. That's my main business. Ashley squinted. It was really comfortable, and it seemed good to let the other party help relax. Ooh. The 5 minutes ended quickly, and the shooting resumed. Adele's Life Scene 10 action. As Ashley walked to the edge of the road, a blue-haired girl on the opposite side caught her attention because the other party was holding another girl without hesitation, and the position of the hand and the demeanor of the two were obviously lovers. As the camera zoomed in, Mary first lowered her head and muttered a few words to the ensemble, then raised her head and smiled brightly. Yes, that's the smile I wanted, and again, this time it's a little bit louder. The second time, Mary smiled more wantonly and relaxed. With her short blue hair and blue coat, the smile reflected was full of Leon light and confidence. The camera was shown to Ashley, and she showed a slightly surprised look, as if thinking about why the other party dared to be so bold and show her sexuality in public. Good performance. This is over. Next shot. It was done in 2 passes, and Mary couldn't help but feel secretly proud in her heart. It's nothing. Ashley has filmed it 19 times, and it's tiring to watch. What follows is the classic retrospective of the intersection of the two, and the multi-camera directly surrounds the two. The props team controlled the green light to turn on, and the two walked in the opposite direction, but they only walked a few steps, and before they could look back, they were stopped by Eric. Mary, your facial expressions are the focus in this scene. Don't just go. Give me a hair-ruffling action. The second time, Mary flicked her hair behind her ears as she walked, revealing her smooth, pointed chin. No, 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 there's something wrong with your face. Again, he was called to stop before he even looked back. Mary looked at Eric with some puzzlement. Director, what's the problem? Eric stared at the monitor screen for a while and said, Change the studs. You play the active side in love. This stud is too gentle. Change her to a sharper one. Props team hurriedly ran forward, and under the joint selection of Eric, Andrea, and others, they changed into a new earring. Is such a shot important? In fact, there is no need to be so harsh when put into a literary film. For example, the dinner scene and the school play, Eric's requirements were not as high as they are today. The main reason is that this picture is too representative, and he can't pass the level in his heart without nitpicking, and the details are appropriate. Of course, he won't be crazy enough to be like Wes Anderson, and the Grand Budapest Hotel is really torturous. Mary puts on new studs and the shoot resumes. This time, I finally took a look back and then continued to be called Card without surprise. Mary looks, there's a lack of temptation in your eyes. You've discovered that Adele is the same kind of person as you. Mary, put your hands in your pockets, cool a little. Mary, take your hands out of your pockets and be dashing. Mary, look back a little longer, you're moving too fast. Mary, what about the expression? The corners of your mouth give me an arc, but not too big, I want an arc of a smile. Mary, are your eyes going to eat each other? Mary, Mary, Mary. When this shot was taken for the 25th time, Andrea reminded, Director, take a break and let everyone find their state again. Eric looked at the surveillance screen, and Mary's cheeks had begun to twitch unconsciously, and he knew that the other party was almost at the limit. In China, a sentence from Edison is often mentioned in primary school textbooks and classroom photos of celebrities, and it may also be Einstein's words. Success equals 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. Teachers and parents love to use this phrase to motivate their children and show them how important it is to work hard. However, they deliberately concealed the second half of the sentence. That is, 1% inspiration is more important than 99% perspiration. In this world, some things and some jobs require talent, and without talent, no matter how hard you work, you won't be able to eat this bowl of rice. For example, actors such as painting, photography, athletes, and even small films have a high probability of being involved with art, and actors are the hardest hit areas in the talent area. Many people envy the high salary and exposure of actors, like to be surrounded by fans and lights, and hear them call their names wildly, so they plunged headlong into the showbiz. But the vast majority of these people often have little acting talent, and from the moment they enter the industry, their career ceiling has been set. Generally speaking, around the age of 30, the acting skills of this life will be promoted to the top, which is still in the case of hard work, and it is rare to see anyone who can break through himself. A small number of actors are really talented, and when they first come into contact with acting, they have an aura in their smiles and movements. As long as such a person works hard, his acting skills will always be improving. He can perform at the age of 20, and he can continue to break through at the age of 60, such as Yi Tong and Edward Norton are all of this type. And obviously, the Olsen sisters belong to the former. You say they have no talent. She does. You say they do, but not many. Elizabeth Olsen is better than her two sisters at this point. Judging from her future resume, she is definitely not good compared to the top talented actors like Freckles, but it is also considered to be on the upper side. Eric is now facing this problem, and even though the Olsen sisters hired professional instructors a few months before the shoot, they still did not reach the ideal heights in his heart. A retrospective shot is so tormented, and the lovelorn scene of the two separating is shot later, the painful expression of heartbreak. Eric can't imagine what a bad scene it will be. It must be very terrifying. Letting everyone rest, Eric called Andrea and Neil Blomkamp over for a small meeting. As you have just seen, there is a problem with Ashley and Mary's performances, and we need a good solution. Andrea nodded. Ashley is better. She is originally introverted, but the acting skills of the two of them are still relatively superficial. Neil Blomkamp gave a different opinion. Director, in fact, I think this shot has been shot very well. Is it really necessary to be so harsh? Neil, honestly, do you really think it's a good shot? Eric asked rhetorically. Yes, I'm telling the truth. I can't say it's perfect, but it's okay to pass the test. Eric sighed and patted him on the shoulder. Understood. This is the limit of vision and appreciation level. It seems that you still need at least 2 more films. What? I was going to use you as an assistant director for the next film, but as things stand, you aren't ready. What? Neil Blomkamp looked like he was dead. He knew it would be like this, so he didn't speak. Andrea said, Director, through the performance since the start of filming, I will talk about my feelings. The Olsen sisters actually have some who have not entered the state, or in other words, they do not know their roles enough. Well, go on. In the usual shooting, first of all, there is your ultra-detailed subshot as the base, and then even if there are some places that are not in place, you will point out specific points for them, as big as how to walk, small enough to frown. The two of them are a bit like marionettes. It's not bad, it's going to speed up the filming a lot, and the actors like this the director the most. But it's not all good for an actor to think deeply about the character and understand it. When you have a good crutch, you slowly give your weight to that crutch. I'm sure they've done their homework, but with a lot of business to do, they shouldn't have much time to delve into the hearts of their characters. Eric nodded. What you're trying to say is that the actor doesn't have enough conviction, right? Andrea's eyes lit up. Yes. That's what it means. When the actor himself doesn't believe in his role, how can he play it well? Is there any way to do it? Neil Blomkamp hurriedly asked. Andrea shook his head. It's difficult in a short period of time. Generally speaking, movies with this theme require actors to have a deep understanding of the character group and even play and experience it in person. It's like Jared Leto, who has to walk the streets of New York every night with the addicts in order to play the role of the addict in Requiem for a Dream, and has done everything except that last step. Hilary Swank lived like a man for months on end in order to play a good transgender person, and she even flattened her chest with a corset. I don't know where the Olsen sisters went, but obviously they weren't doing enough. Eric sighed and looked at the Olsen sisters not far away. The two of them were talking and laughing, apparently unaware of their problems. After a long time, Eric beckoned, and Judy was called. Eric, what's the matter? I'm going to give you a mission. Okay. Why are you mysterious? You can't leave anything tricky to me. Well, that's a good thing, at least for you. Really? Ashley and Mary, I don't think they're really in the play, so I want you to take them to really experience that feeling and get to know the group. Judy's eyes widened. What's the feeling? You'd better make it clear, and don't let me misunderstand. It's the kind of feeling you want. Don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about. Boom. Judy swallowed. Is that okay? I can take it reluctantly, but am I saying they will agree? I'm here to convince them. Judy rubbed her hands excitedly. Then me. Waiting for the good news, I knew that it was the right choice to come to the crew as a producer. With that, she slipped into the corner, found a small bench and sat down, and quietly observed the Olsen sisters. Mary, Ashley, come here. Hearing Eric's call, the two sisters hurried up to him. Eric drove the people around him away, sat the two sisters down, and reorganized the language in his head. Even for him, this is a difficult topic to talk about, and if he doesn't get it, he will be sprayed, and he has already expected the picture of being hammered by the Olsen sisters. It's definitely not okay to come hard, but you still have to be good at it and throw out a big bait to avoid the Air Force. Ashley, Mary, the filming of this scene just now didn't go very well. Let's talk and find out why. I've done it 25 times. Don't you have a shot that works? Mary's face fell again, and she thought she had passed. No, it's almost meaningless. I can't see that feeling from the two of you. Do you understand? I can't see the feeling of being a lesbian. How did you get into the play? The two sisters looked at each other. We looked for books and read a lot about it, and we actually had friends around us, and Mary and I chatted with them and asked about their lifestyles and so on. Eric nodded. It's a good practice, but it's not detailed enough. Now I want you to experience it more realistically, okay? Ashley was a little puzzled. What do you mean by more real experience? Mary frowned and looked at Eric. Cooper, you've always been a fast-talking person. Why do you talk so much? Eric pointed to Judy not far away. Judy Newhouse. She's an expert in this area, and she'll take you to a professional bar in the evening to open your eyes. It's in that atmosphere that you get to know the group. After a little inner entanglement, Eric still didn't have the thickness of being thick enough to explain it, and the rest of the matter was up to Judy. This girl has always had a hand, and she is familiar with this kind of thing. According to Godot, Viefafari is a normal sexual orientation, and the two have not seen her behave abnormally since they met, and now she is still broken into a soft state by Judy. What is a squishy state? It is straight or bent or bent. It can be straight or bent, or even straight and bent at the same time. It's magical. Seeing that the two didn't speak, Eric emphasized, "Don't get me wrong, I just want you to get into the play quickly. Today's scene is still a relatively simple plot, and there are more difficult ones in the future. You don't want to shoot a shot for a day. Dozens of people in the whole crew are waiting. And let's not forget our purpose. We're going to hit next year's Golden Globe and Oscar. We don't have much time left. Haven't you always wanted to really transform? You want to get rid of the child star label, right?" Eric, Ashley was about to say something, but was forcefully interrupted by Eric.
No.
Don't say it, but look at the people around you. In everyone's eyes, you are still those two children who can only act in children's plays. If you want the Golden Globes, if you want the Oscars, you have to be determined, and success comes at a price. You might win the actress for this role, and the youngest actress is Mary Matron now, but she's also 21 years old, and you haven't even had your 18th birthday yet. Think about it, at the age of 18, you will make history, become the focus of the world's attention, and leave a strong mark in film history forever. Imagine the Oscars podium. You stand on it, and the Olsen sisters are going to be world-class icons. For months, Eric continued to puddle the sisters, painting them when they had nothing to do, and their thoughts couldn't help but fly to the Oscars with Eric's description. "All right then, Eric, then do as you say." "That's right, that's what makes a good actor, so let's skip this scene first." Eric looked at James McAvoy. "James, it's time for you to play. Play well and fight for a pass." "Good director, I'll work hard." After the break, the crew moved to the bus not far away, and several actors were in position and posed. Adele's Life, Scene 9, Action. This scene is very simple. The focus is on the male senior played by James McAvoy, who is pursuing Adele, but in a more subtle way. In the camera, Adele played by Ashley sits in a very ordinary posture. The scene shifts backwards, and McAvoy appears, who was originally sitting in the back of the bus, but after seeing Adele get on the bus, he naturally wants to get closer. "So I got up from my seat and pretended to look around, as if I cared about other people's opinions, very lifelike details." As if he had finally mustered up his courage, McAvoy slowly walked up to Adele's side, holding the railing of the car with one hand to hold it steady, even though the prop cart didn't start at all. Then he lowered his head, his eyes revealing a hint of fear, but also longing and appreciation, and after a few words, he sat down in the empty seat next to Ashley. "Very good, James, one pass. Your performance is very good. It seems that the drama is not in vain." "Thank you, director." McAvoy laughed. Ashley looked at this beautiful big boy with a literary appearance with some surprise, but she didn't expect the other party to pass by. Then the crew continued to transfer and came to the classroom scene. Adele's Life, Scene 12, Action. Several female students in the classroom are talking, and the camera shows McAvoy's back through them. He heard the girls discussing themselves, so his back suddenly tightened, and the twitching of his coat showed a hint of tension inside him. When he heard the good news, he relaxed again, turned to Ashley's side, and made an invitation to the other party. "Awesome, James. You contributed beautiful acting skills." Not only was Ashley surprised by the play, but Mary, who was watching from the side, was also surprised. It turned out to be another one. Is this James McAvoy's acting skills so good? The crew transitioned again, and Eric decided to give the Olsen sisters a big one, filming McAvoy's last scene, which was also the most emotionally intense breakup scene. That's right, he did it on purpose, and the purpose was naturally to stimulate Ashley and Mary, So even if McAvoy's performance was a little flawed, he gave it. It is to make the Olsen sisters understand the gap and motivate them to work hard, so that the sisters will naturally follow their own arrangements. This is called stealth PUA. And this scene McAvoy did not disappoint Eric. The emotional interpretation of sadness, disappointment, loss, depression, incomprehension, and doubt cannot be said to be perfect, but it is not a problem to pass. Ha 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 ha, James, you're such a genius. You're doing a great job. Eric stood up and took the lead in applauding the other party, and the others clapped their hands when they saw this. This made McAvoy scratch his head a little uncomfortably. He felt that his emotions just now still had room to play, and the performance could be better. But looking at this posture, I naturally can't say another word, so I can only accept it in a daze. Am I really that good? The crew's time passed quickly, and before they knew it, it was time to clock out and get off work. The ensemble and crew left one after another, and before long, only Eric, James McAvoy, and the Olsen sisters were left in the room. Judy walked over and said, "Ashley, Mary, let's go. Let's go have a meal together, and then I'll take you to see Lala's real life." Two sisters looked at Eric, who nodded heavily. Then they looked at James McAvoy, the British boy's performance, which gave them a big shock today. Everyone stays in the same crew. The age difference is not much. They are still a small supporting role, and looking at their performance today, the Olsen sisters also feel very ashamed in their hearts. Originally, in their hearts, it was under the pressure of Eric that they made such a choice, but now they are somewhat proactive. The three left side by side, and Eric patted John Ime on the shoulder. "Good job, James." McAvoy was still a little skeptical. "Director, am I really that good?" "Ha ha ha ha. Of course, believe that you are the best. See you tomorrow." "Okay, see you tomorrow." Getting into the car, the driver Peter asked, "Boss, where to go?" Eric looked at the phone in his hand. He wanted to go to Nico tonight. He hadn't seen him for a few days, and he wanted to be a beautiful girl again. However, not only did she have to touch the dark in her house, but she also had to climb over the wall, which was really troublesome. "Peter, should I buy a house?" "What?" Chun-Shing and Peter looked back at the same time, not understanding why Eric suddenly said this. "Chun-Shing, these days, you go to the market and take a look, find a house of the right size. Not in Beverly Hills, I need a relatively remote area. But don't go to the slums. Safety is still the first thing to consider. The size of the house does not have to be very large, and it does not have to be a villa, and the apartment can also be considered, enough for 3 or 4 people to live in." Chun-Shing wrote down the conditions. "Good boss." He and Peter looked at each other, and the rich man suddenly wanted to buy a house, and it was certainly not for business. What can you do if you don't do business? Jinwu Zongjiao, envious. I don't know when I can get to this point. I took out my phone and called Nicole Kidman. "Hey Nico, what are you doing?" "Read the script." "Air." Was a somewhat lazy voice from the other side, and Eric was tickled in his heart with a sexy rhythm. But then he realized something was wrong. Read the script. Read what script? Do you have a new play?" "Of course. Have you forgotten that I'm an Oscar-winning actress now? The crew that wants to invite new actresses to film has already been scheduled to the suburbs of Los Angeles, you know? But aren't you going to make La Vie en Rose?" Nico chuckled softly. "Then you're going to give me the script. At least let me know what role I'm going to play. And I just read other people's scripts, but the schedule has been reserved for you. Others can drag it back, and now I have the capital." Eric laughed. "Honey, I'll ask tomorrow how the script is perfect. I only gave an outline, but this kind of literary film needs to pick out the details, you know." "Well, to be honest, I don't really want to act in literary films anymore. Is there a commercial blockbuster like Transformers? I want to be the heroine." "Hee, with your current achievements, do you still care about commercial literature and art?" "I remember that the global box office of Island Cry broke $200 million, and you don't need to prove anything." Nico squealed lazily, her pretty nasal voice audible through the phone. "Eric, it's not for this reason. I just wanted to break a spell." "Spells? What spells?" "A wicked witch has cast a spell on you, so let me, a handsome prince, save you." "Ha ha ha, haven't you heard of it?" Eric rolled his eyes, thinking it was something he was struggling with it. Hollywood does circulate such gossip that it will decline for 3 years after winning the Oscar. Whether it's an actor or a queen, when you touch that trophy, the spell has quietly wrapped around you. After that, you will not only face career failure, but in severe cases, it will also affect your marriage and health, which is terrifying. Once, the New York Times even did a special survey and statistics and found that only 7.2% of Oscar winners can continue their personal success. Only 3.2% of those who won the award could have a substantial impact on the appeal of the box office, and 36% of them became box office poison, gags, complete disappearance, and other self-depravity. Some people say that the instant luck you get from the Oscars is likely to cost you a lifetime of struggle to pay it back. Anyway, according to the results, it is indeed quite metaphysical, and psychologists analyze that it is most likely because people will float after winning the award. The unstable mentality naturally leads to a poor vision of film selection, and then it is to hit the street, and after hitting the street, he can't recognize himself clearly and continues to hit the street. I pounced a lot and finally woke up, and then my eyes came back and soared into the sky again. "Nico, my darling, what a spell is just a joke. I have a way to avoid it 100%. I don't believe it, you're going to make fun of me again." "No, what I'm saying is true. The way is to consider my advice before every film, as long as you take my advice. I can't guarantee that you will win the big prize, but I promise that it will not become box office poison." "Humph, as if you could see the future." "That's right, I just can." Nico snorted. "No kidding, I want you to come over with me tomorrow and bring the script of La Vie en Rose with me." "Miss me?" After a pause, Nico let out a serious, "Okay, see you tomorrow night, love you baby." "I love you too." Car drove all the way back to Beverly Hills, and to his surprise, except for his mother and little nanny Lisa, who were preparing dinner, Joshua was sitting on the couch watching TV. "Wow, look who's back, Joshua. You're such a busy man that you know you have a home." Joshua shouted into the kitchen, "I heard you, Mom. I'll say that Eric will definitely taunt me. He doesn't welcome his brother." "Humph, don't sell Joshua. Are you on vacation?" Joshua sighed. "Sort of. That injured guy is back again. It's the team member I replaced a few months ago, and now I'm being pushed down by him. Damn it. Why didn't this guy get smashed to the bone?" He recovered so quickly. Opening the fridge and taking out the beer, Eric said apologetically, "Sorry bro, so your chance." "No, that guy came back and guarded me, as you can see, so I can sit here, and that bastard from Barry will give me a day off, and I'm on the bench in the team anyway." Eric sat next to him and hugged each other, and the two of them touched the bottle and blew halfway first. "Joshua, there will always be things in the world that you are not happy with. It is impossible for everything to go well. You have been training for a long time, and it is not bad to rest for a few days." Joshua spread his hands. "Otherwise, I don't have anything else to do. Not only the chance to play, but also the beautiful cheerleaders who have said goodbye to me, and the fanatical female fans." Saying that, he whispered, "You don't know how far those crazy fans can go. I heard before that basketball circles are messy, and that Magic Johnson will play a rainbow tactic." "Do you know what a rainbow tactic is?" "It's a dozen women of different skin colors, all kinds of colors, so it's called a rainbow. Since I started the game, I have also understood how happy this tactic is, but unfortunately now there is nothing, alas." Listening to this guy's unserious boasting, Eric said solemnly, "Joshua, I advise you to clean yourself up. Magic Johnson is infected with AIDS. You don't know. If you want to play, find a clean one. Be moderate. Joshua sighed and shook his head. Yes, of course I understand. I only got 2 months of experience vouchers, and I have to be reckless before the experience vouchers expire. Eric, seriously, I was able to play in the varsity team when I was in college, and I thought I would play in the professional team, but unfortunately the reality is not what you think. If it weren't for someone getting hurt, I probably wouldn't have gotten a chance to play. Do you think I don't have rugby talent at all? It's hard to answer this question. Judging from all kinds of performances, I really can't be considered a very talented athlete. This is quite similar to the Olsen sisters. There is talent but not much, and when the competitive pressure is small, it can't be seen. Once it comes to the high score, it immediately exposes its shortcomings and shows its fatigue. Seeing that his younger brother didn't speak, Joshua shrugged. Okay, don't get entangled. I understand what you mean. It seems that I really didn't eat this bowl of rice. Maybe I should consider changing careers while I am young. What do you want to do? Any ideas? Asked Eric. Not for the time being. What do you think of the actors? Look at the faces of our brothers. They're all standard handsome guys. I'm not a quarterback, but I can also play rainbow tactics. This face plays a big role. Do you want to be an actor? But being an actor is also a very talented job. Handsome is only temporary, and in a few years, there will be actors who are more handsome and younger than you, and if you want to become an evergreen in the film industry, you need solid acting skills. If you really decide, I can find you a professional teacher to train for a while, and then we will see the effect, but I also make a suggestion. Didn't you say before that you want to be a team manager? Instead of being an actor across the industry, it is better to learn team management knowledge. Joshua looked at his brother speechlessly. That's a joke. Are you serious? If you're lucky enough to produce 1 or 2 stars and they can mention my name in an interview, that's perfect. And as for the team manager, ha 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 ha. Joshua, I'm not kidding you. Anyway, you still have a long way to go on your contract with the 49ers, so don't waste it. Make good use of it. Maybe you will use it in the next few years. Eric said in a very serious tone. Well, are you serious? Yes, the world is impermanent, and no one knows what will happen in the future. I know this, the line in Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what the next one will taste like. That's it. Maybe in a few years, MGM will become bigger and stronger, and then the tentacles will develop into the field of sports, and there is no separation between culture and sports, and in general, it will be related to art. Joshua folded his hands on his chest, leaned his chin up on the couch in deep thought, and nodded as if he had figured it out after a while. Eric, you're right, it's a good way out, but I don't know if I'll learn it. What's
Impossible?
Set yourself a goal. At that finish line, there are countless cheerleading beauties beckoning to you. Isn't it instantly full of motivation? Joshua immediately showed a foolish smile. Oi, wonderful scene. Click. The door opened and Dad walked in. Joshua, why are you back? Of course, to come back to see my favorite mom and dad. I miss you so much. Walking over to help Dad hang up his clothes. Joshua hugged each other by the way. Eric nodded. That's it. That's it. That's what the manager needs. See if you can do a good job. After dinner, Eric took a dip in the bathtub to rest, and taking a bath is a wonderful thing to forget. The phone rang, and I took it and looked at it. It was Elena's. The two hadn't seen each other for more than a month, and they only talked on the phone occasionally. Hi, Elena. Good evening. No, I'm not good at all, Eric Cooper. What's the matter? Listen to your tone, who you off? Whoever I'm calling is who's me off. What? You can't just wronged people. We haven't seen each other recently. How could I make you angry? Humph. You know you haven't been to New York in a long time, you bastard. You forgot about me when you're done using it, are you? Eric coughed dryly. What do you say? Am I that kind of person? Elena, I have always had your place in my heart, but I have been really busy lately. Pay attention to entertainment news, and you will understand. Of course I'm paying attention. You're busy messing around with Nicole Kidman. Who doesn't know? Hey, it's not right for you to say that. Strictly speaking, the two of us are also messing around. Why scold yourself? There was a pause on the other side, and there seemed to be the sound of teeth rubbing. Eric Cooper, you're such a rare, purebred bastard. Lift your pants and don't recognize anyone. After receiving a few scoldings in a row, Eric's temper also came up. Fuck, lady, I warn you that you can scold me, but don't scold my species, or I'll give you a good look. Come on, then you can come to New York. Fuck as much as you want. I'll wait this weekend. Don't tell me you're a bastard. The phone hung up. Eric frowned, and he suddenly realized that he seemed to have fallen for this bitch's agitation. Alas, it's also a happy trouble, so do you want to go by yourself? It's okay if you don't go. Anyway, the two of them are more of a union of interests, but if you want to ask Elena for something in the future. For example, Hasbro, I'm afraid it's not that simple, and the other party will at least throw himself in the face. If you go, you will inevitably be juiced again, and I don't know what the real purpose of this girl is. Besides, I'm going to accompany Nico tomorrow, and I'll fly to him the day after tomorrow, and Godot will probably not let go of himself on Sunday. Then don't think about starting work on Monday. No matter how young your body is, you can't bear it like this. Thinking about it, Eric decided that it would be better to rest early, recuperate, and prepare for war. Bell. In his sleep, at some time, another phone call came and woke Eric up. Looking at the screen, it was Judy. With a yawn, Eric answered the phone. You know it's the middle of the night? Disturb the boss's sleep. I'll deduct your salary. Judy's somewhat irritated voice sounded over there. Come and help. These two sisters can't leave.